Good afternoon. My name is Charles Thornton. I'm a recently published author. The name of my book is The Warrior Class. It was published in 2012. In regards to the book details or outlines the life of a young African-American male in Northeast Georgia, and it navigates his life experiences and his perspective as he grows up and goes through his young adulthood. Background: yes, I was born in Northeast Georgia, Elberton, Georgia to be precise. Grew up in Elberton, Georgia, graduated from high school, Elbert County Comprehensive High School, went on to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia. From Morehouse College, I attended or enrolled in the United States Army for 5 years, 2 years as a combat medic, and I switched over to Special Operations Forces. Once I fulfilled my obligations as a soldier, I came into the civilian sector, became employed, served 4 years in PTA, 2 years as a vice president, and 2 years as a president for the Executive PTA Board, and also 4 years as a T-ball coach. Okay, as I discussed earlier, this book discusses the life of a young African-American male from Northeast Georgia and his perspective of life as he navigates his way through. And there are 3 salient issues that I conceptualize that I would like to discuss. And the first one would be the role of the African-American preacher in today's society. It's currently 2012. We have President Barack Obama as the president. In 2008, I campaigned for Barack Obama. 2012, I voted for him. And one of the most important aspects of his speech is that the citizens are responsible for improving the quality of life of other Americans. And within the black community, we have many problems and issues. And I would like to focus on individuals in today's society. For instance, T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar, and Bishop Eddie Long. When I talk about these individuals, I'm giving a critique. I have nothing negative against them, but I just want to talk about their impact on society as it relates to the African American community. You have these individuals that are leaders of mega churches, and when you hear about them, in most instances, it's in regard to some negative accusations against them in regards to inappropriate behavior. And you got to understand, during the days of Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, these individuals, they didn't just talk about Jesus and God. They talked about the impact of God in society. And not only did they talk about it, they implemented it. And they worked. And you would see them out working for civil rights and human rights, not only for African Americans or Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, for all Americans and humanity. And back in those days, the African American church was a pillar for society. There were many things that occurred in church. You not only discussed God and Jesus and going to heaven. I love God and I love Jesus, but there's a lot in between that. For instance, a lot of the problems that we have in society with young African Americans is that they don't have a strong or concrete foundation to their African and African American history. And I propose that all of these African American preachers implement educational programs within their church, whereas when the children come into the church from K through 11th grade, they're educated on their history and culture. And you may ask, why do I say this? And that's because when African American children are educated on themselves and they develop a strong pride within themselves, you will reduce a lot of the pejorative epiphenomenal effects that occur within society. If black men were taught about Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and not just the I Have a Dream speeches, the James Baldwins, if they learn about their entire history, the Medgar Evers, what these men went through to accomplish these various goals and the sacrifices they made to the world. They were Christians, they were Christ-like, and Christ died for his people, for all of his people, to bring them to a higher level of enlightenment, and that is lacking within the African American community. And it's not all of the African American preachers. You have individuals like Brother Jeremiah Wright, an extremely intelligent and progressive African American male preacher that has made many contributions to his community, and he should be a model and he should be respected for all the work that he has done. A lot of times these African American preachers, they have changed in regards to the church used to be a place for social meetings, for progress, for change, but now it has become a part of this capitalistic system where the preachers are using the church as a business and they're catering towards women to generate revenue. You should cater towards all people and teach the most important values and educational and historical background for African Americans. As I said earlier, if young African Americans are taught their history and culture, they can interact with each other in a more positive and dignified ways. You got to understand that we're from different tribes. Some of us are from warrior tribes, some of us are from nurturing tribes, and we're all mixed up. But we need to have a commonality, so when we meet another African American male or individual, we'll be able to meet them in an appropriate way, and in a positive way. So that is very important. And in regards to the children, if African American children were educated on all these different aspects of their history, they will be less likely to wear their clothes hanging below their waist. They will be less likely to disrespect each other, and they will be more of a positive influence on the world. When a young person knows themselves and their history, they'll be a more productive individual, and not just for the community, for society and for the world. And that is extremely important. And when you look at these black preachers that we hail as great leaders, we'll look at Dr. Martin Luther King, and we'll look at Malcolm X. These individuals, Dr. Martin Luther King, he graduated from HBCU, a historically black college and university, Morehouse College. And by him understanding and knowing who he was and his history, he was able to deliver a powerful gift to the world. Not only a powerful gift as far as information and enlightenment, he gave his life for the betterment of all people. And then you have guys like Malcolm X. He was a part of a black theological progressive movement, and that is a positive and that's a good thing, and those people should be magnified. Today in the media we have guys like Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly, and these guys sometimes try to demonize guys like Brother Jeremiah Wright. And you got to understand, Jeremiah Wright is a true patriot. He received an undergraduate degree. He received 2 master's degrees, a PhD. He served 6 years in the United States military, 2 to 3 in the Navy, and 2 to 3 in the Marine Corps. He speaks several languages, and he's a part of a progressive black theology, which these individuals should applaud for his work in the community. But you have people like Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly. To me, they're equivalent or modern-day terrorists. These individuals try to demonize this Brother Jeremiah Wright through sound bites and not look at his entire body of work. And it's important that you look at this gentleman's entire body of work and look at the positive contributions he has had on the world. And we should continue to respect and hold those individuals up. Two of the most influential literary persons for me would be James Baldwin and Ernest Gaines, especially James Baldwin. If you get an opportunity to read any of his books or go to YouTube and pull up any of his speeches, you'll understand why I think he was such a dynamic literary giant. Okay, the hip-hop community and rappers. Yeah, I'm a part of the hip-hop generation, and I think I grew up during like the golden era of hip-hop. Moving to Atlanta when I was 17, the most influential individuals at that time for me was Andre 3000 and Big Boy Outkast, and their music was very uplifting for the people, and everybody respected that. That was like the golden age for hip-hop. But prior to that, I enjoy Ice Cube. He was a very strong and intelligent individual, and he was the guy that I first started listening to as far as rap. But I would definitely have to say Outkast, Andre 3000 is the greatest rapper alive because he always put forth positive and influential music. But there are several other rappers that I enjoy. You can go from CeeLo to Common to Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Immortal Techniques, just a plethora of other positive individuals that really try to use their influence to create a better world. And being in Atlanta, I had an opportunity to talk to Jeezy. Everybody in Atlanta loves Jeezy because he's actually in the streets. We had a conversation in 2005 at a restaurant called Chanterelles in Southwest Atlanta. And at the time I was involved in a lot of community service, you know, trying to help out a lot of youth and what have you. And I approached him and I asked him could I sit down and speak with him. He was a very respectful gentleman, as real warriors are respectful gentlemen. And I just congratulated him on his success, and we had a conversation, and I told him the most important reason for me talking to him, I was just asking him, a lot of his music was pretty much drug inspired, and I was just asking him if he could sometime try to make some music for young kids to grow to. Because a lot of these rappers, I would never get down on them because of some of the lifestyles that they've lived, because you got to understand their background. Some of them grew up with their fathers being heroin addicts, their mothers being on crack. They had really no other options, or they felt as though they had no other options. But if you're a grown man and you get to a certain point in your life, you can't speak negativity and destruction to other people, because a lot of young African-American males without fathers, they look up to you guys, and you guys play an important part in their growth and development. If you think back, all of you had some, if you're an African-American guy, some African-American rapper that you like, and they influence your life to some degree. So it's very important that you understand the power you have, the divine power you have, the power that God has given you. You have another individual that I spoke to, which I have a lot of respect for, Waka Flocka. I spoke to him in the airport, and I basically told him the same thing that I told Jeezy. He's a very intelligent and respectful individual, and we actually exchanged books. He gave me a book to read, and I recommended a book for him to read. And I know as time progresses and he starts speaking about what he really knows about and who he really is, he'll have a dramatic impact upon the world. In the book, I spoke about 50 Cent and Jay-Z from a conceptual standpoint. As I stated earlier, you know, I love all people. I have nothing against any person per se, because I think you have to understand a person's background before you pass judgment on those individuals. But I was just speaking in regard to the information they put out. But for the past few months, a year and a half, the rapper 50 Cent. This individual, he had his tattoos removed. He's trying to feed 1 billion Africans. He's trying to feed people in the U.S. and he's changing his life. And to me, that's a sign of a real warrior. That's a sign of a real gangster. Okay, in regards to athletes, one of the biggest problems within the athletic community that we have had is Michael Jordan. And when I speak about Michael Jordan, understand me, this is a critical critique. There's nothing negative about Michael Jordan or what have you. It's just to explain a conceptualized point that I'm making. Michael Jordan, he had a platform, an international and global platform. He could have said anything and talked about anything in regards to African American community, equality, civil rights, human rights. But in my perspective, he failed to do that. And it has set a negative precedents. And you have guys like Kobe Bryant, and you have these athletes, they just come on TV and they only discuss basketball or sports, and they're far more intelligent than that. They could discuss other issues that affect the world. And when you look back in the 60s and in the past, you had individuals like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali didn't graduate from high school, but he was a part of that progressive black theology that I talked about, and he had a major impact upon the world. It is extremely important to acquire a formal education, and I'm an advocate of that, but that's not the end-all be-all. You could be informally educated and be as effective like Muhammad Ali. He's a world icon, and if there's anybody that's interested in boxing or fighting, it'll be good to study Muhammad Ali, especially as an African American male. Study every aspect of his life, all of his speeches, everything that we've done. And we have guys today in that arena such as Floyd Mayweather and John Jones, a part of the UFC. They are very intelligent and progressive young men that, in my opinion, they follow in the footsteps of those giants. They understand that life is more important than just sports. They're more civically and community service oriented, which is a great thing. And for the young African Americans that are going to church and the preachers have implemented these educational tools, you have people like Jackie Robinson, Arthur Ashe, the great Jim Brown, that these young individuals can study and learn a lot about their lives, and that'll make them stronger individuals. To know it's okay to be intelligent, to know that it's okay to be progressive and fight for human and civil rights. You have these individuals like Jim Brown, whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for, the greatest football player in the history of this country. If you get an opportunity to study him in the churches, you could go all year studying these individuals in depth, not just sound bites, but their entire lives, all the contributions they made. Great individuals like Arthur Ashe, again, Jackie Robinson, all these individuals. And as I stated before, in regards to Michael Jordan, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Michael Jordan. I think he has done a lot. Actually, he contributed a donation to Spike Lee, one of the greatest persons in American history, so that he could finish making the movie Malcolm X, which is an American classic. In regards to Spike Lee and Tyler Perry, you have to understand that Spike Lee is a phenomenal individual. He's a third-generation Morehouse man, receiving his undergraduate degree at Morehouse College. He received a degree in cinematography and film. He's a professor New York University for film and cinematography. So he has a vast amount of knowledge in cinema and the impact that cinema has had on African Americans. And Tyler Perry is an individual that came up hard and he struggled and he became extremely successful, and he should be respected for his hard work. But you have these two individuals, one with the capital and one with the spirit and soul and the education. They should definitely work together to produce good products. In regards to Spike Lee, he's my Morehouse brother and I love him, but I think he was a little too harsh on his critique and criticism of Tyler Perry. You just got to understand he grew up differently, different experiences, and we all have a different maturation rate. So I hope one day we'll see those two gentlemen working together to provide great movies and entertainment for all people. I've had the opportunity to travel all over the world and meet all type of different people. I've met some of the toughest guys in the world, and I've met some of the weakest guys in the world. But in regards to what I was saying about 50 Cent, and I applaud his positive changes, the toughest guys that I've ever met in my life that came from really impoverished backgrounds, if you give them an opportunity to change and you give them money, they take that opportunity and they move with it. So I commend him, and I used him and Jay-Z from a conceptual standpoint, not as a pejorative, critical perspective. And being from Atlanta, everybody recognizes T.I. as a king of the South, and I do too. He has divine powers. But you got to understand, I have a part of this in the book where I talk about the African kings. Some African kings sold their own people into slavery. And to me, trap music is a psychological way of selling your people into slavery. You're selling them into incarceration, you're selling them into destructive behavior and death, because many people aren't successful when they deal drugs and they do those type things. They kill their family, their friends, they destroy relationships. And if you're a rapper and you're rapping about the illegal distribution of narcotics, guns, violence, misogyny, and you're sending your kids to private school and you're not teaching them to carry guns and sell drugs, you shouldn't teach that to anybody else, because that's not real, and that's not being a warrior or a king or anything. That's being destructive against your own people. And at a certain point, you got to understand, we grow up differently, we have different experiences. If you want to talk about how your life was and what happened, that's beautiful, but it's a time where you have to provide solutions and change and hope for other individuals. Am I afraid to speak critically about rappers? Am I afraid? Do I look like I'm afraid? No, not at all. Because if you speak the truth to warriors, they understand that, period. No, I have no fear whatsoever. In regards to what I currently have going on, since I live in Atlanta, I'm trying to sign with Ludacris or T.I., not to be a rapper, but in a different capacity. Also, I've written 2 movies, one for John Singleton and one for Tyler Perry. And hopefully their management companies will be able to get in touch with me so that I could present that information to them. Also, I would be interested in working with Master P, Percy Miller, or Floyd Mayweather and his company. And when you think about individuals from Georgia, I was born and raised in Georgia. You look at our resume, you look at what type men were born and raised in Georgia. You have guys like Dr. Martin Luther King, you have Malcolm X, you have Jim Brown. That's the type of stock that we come from. So thank you, and I really appreciate your support. Please go out and buy my book, The Warrior Class, Charles E. Thornton. Thank you.